Hello and welcome to this week's Our Game. Delighted to be back to you once again, brought to you by our good sponsors Lottoland, and we have a big weekend of football to talk through, Adam. We're going to have Nisha Waldron on from 4:30 to look back on the hurling, but a big weekend of football, Adam. As a as a proud football man, you must be a fever pitch coming into this weekend. It's set up perfectly with the way the preliminary quarterfinals worked out. We have probably the 8 best teams in the country taking each other on this weekend.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Jesus, like it couldn't have worked out better in many ways. I'd go to all 4 games if I could. I might try and get to three. I'll obviously be at the doubleheader on Sunday with Kerry involved, but it's so exciting. And obviously, look, we've spoken at length about the new rules already, so there's no need to go back into them. But it just the excitement around these games is incredible. I'm not sure how the attendance are going. I imagine both of them are going to be very high, but especially on the Sunday with Armagh bringing their great support and Kerry hopefully bringing a good crowd with them as well. But we'll have to wait and see. But
What do
no,
you what do you reckon? What do you reckon? Like, it's kind of mad, and it's not something you get used to seeing with a player kind of basically making a call to arms, and like the biggest player in the game with Clifford coming out after the game the last day. What were your own kind of thoughts on that? And it's a bad sign though, in a way, when a player has to do that in the first place.
it is like it's slightly embarrassing, to be honest about it. From a Kerry point of view, it is slightly embarrassing. I suppose from the like, first of all, why is he doing it? Like it's pretty obvious why he's doing it, and why Paul Ganey did it the week before at the launch of the championship. He said something similar. The players are obviously talking about it. If two of them have come out and said it publicly, Kerry players, as I'm sure every county player is, they're quite careful about what they say about the supporters. I know that from interviewing them. They're very sure. They have to be sure of themselves about what they say about the supporters.
Well,
Uh,
everyone's always careful about what to say about supporters after Paddy got stung that
Yeah,
time.
exactly. Yeah, Jesus, I have to be half careful myself. But no, look, like they're saying it for a reason, is because they knew Armagh were coming down the tracks. At that stage, realistically, and I was at that semi final last year. The crowd did play a big part in it. It was lopsided in favour of Armagh, and it was just when the game was in the mixer towards the end, it felt like Kerry were playing away. I think I said before it was like Kerry were playing against Galatasaray away. It was like that kind of really hostile environment for them. And look, I heard Philly McMahon saying this week that he thinks that it's a sign that Kerry are distracted or not focusing on the right things. But I think the players are aware that it might come down to very small percentages, and even if they can get an extra couple of thousand up there supporting them and being a bit more vociferous, maybe that it might play a part on a day. But like I think what people like, I'm seeing lots of comments online about saying Joshua Kerry are the worst supporters in the country and this kind of stuff. And I suppose, look, we don't have a good reputation for travelling to matches, but I think what people maybe don't realise, or maybe just are choosing not to acknowledge, is the fact that Kerry supporters are used to the team getting to semi-finals and finals. So for a lot of counties, it's a big deal to get to a quarter final, and it's something to celebrate and something to enjoy. Kerry supporters don't see it that way. Kerry supporters don't see quarterfinals as big deals at all. They do wait for semi-finals and finals, which isn't a good trait. But if your team's consistently doing it over the course of your lifetime, there is a sort of fatigue there, from the sports point of view. So I can see it from that point of view. But hopefully, David's words and Paul's words will kind of resonate with them, and we will see a bigger crowd this weekend.
It's funny that the two teams that are top of the roll of honour, the two roll of honours, Kerry and Kilkenny, would not be the best supported teams. Like, and I'd be straight with you, and even chatting to Kilkenny people, they haven't really bought into this team. And maybe I'm not saying that's the same with Kerry, but there seems to be a lot of negativity flying around Kerry, and that the sooner maybe the year is over, the better. I can't get my head around that type of thing. Surely there's a bit of revenge on their mind against Armagh, a team that they could have beaten and were better than for large stages of that semi final last year. So maybe there's a bit of kind of Yera bullshit talk in it as well, maybe. But it'll be interesting to see if they talk with their feet, because it's a huge game, like huge game, and probably the tastiest of the four across the weekend, and they're all tasty.
Yeah, right. I would say like there is a difference between kind of the mindset of the players and what they're thinking, and then the mindset of the supporters who go to matches, and then the mindset of supporters who are kind of casual supporters, who might be saying, "Or sure, look, they're not going great." Every time Kerry lose a game, it's a disaster, and it's like, forget about this team. you lose one game and you're like, sure, they're no good. That's what some supporters in Kerry are just like automatically. So when they lost to me that time, it was just the negative people were having a field day that week. They were writing the season off, but the Kerry players won't be writing their season off at all. And I think the loyal supporters who go to matches and are backing the team all the way, they won't feel that way either. There's massive respect for Armagh. They're a really good team, and if Kerry aren't on it, they will get beaten, and that's the long and the short of it. But I don't think, I know it was Darragh O'Shea who came out with that comment about maybe Kerry are better off getting their season over with. I to be honest, I wouldn't really believe anything Darragh O'Shea says, realistically, because he can say anything, and he likes to throw the odd grenade as well. And I'd say he's a bit mischievous with his writing at times. So and it was put to Jack the last day in the press briefing after the Cavan game that Darragh had said that about putting Kerry out of their misery. And Jack's reply was Darragh should go away and do a bit of coaching himself, and he was laughing obviously, but it was a bit salty, but it was kind of.
Speaking of the O'Sheas, actually, Mark is throwing I wouldn't say it's a grenade, but he said that Jack Barry's after coming back in from the cold and back in the squad. Have you heard anything about that? That would be very left field.
Yeah, that rumour's been doing the rounds for a good couple of months, and as far as I know, he's not back that long. He's only back a shorter time than the rumour was around longer than he was, we'll say, back in the country.
This isn't a relegation club game that you can just land back from Australia.
Exactly,
and play,
exactly. No, Kerry fans have a good time for Jack Barry, but being realistic, if we're going back to that fella who's only back in the country after a couple of years and hasn't been, I don't know, I'm sure he's keeping himself fit, but in terms of you can't just. I'd imagine you can't just land into a quarter final against Armagh in Croke Park after not playing for the team for a couple of years and have an impact. So I think it's silly season at the moment with the rumours around Kerry, as is always the case in the summertime. But I don't know. Is that Mark just kind of throwing a kind of spanner in the works? But I think that the squad's going to be announced later tonight. John Fogarty of the Examiner seems to think there's going to be a surprise in it. So it remains to be seen. Maybe it might be Mark O'Connor back. Maybe it might be Killian Burke. You wouldn't know. But we'll see what Jack has up his sleeve for the night.
Now, it's quarter final week, and even though they're not in a quarter final, I'm paraphrasing somebody on Twitter, I'm not sure who, Mayo are still top of the agenda. You might bring it up on screen, Adam. We have the statement that Mayo put out last night. And we just read it out here now. Just said, on Cushta Banishtick, the meeting of Mayo GA was held in Hastings Park. I'm just going to say it, McHale Park, Castlebar this evening, Wednesday, 25th of June. At the meeting, a decision was made to relieve Kevin McStay and his management team from their roles with the Mayo senior football team with immediate effect. We would like to sincerely thank Kevin and his management team for their time, effort and commitment to the Mayo senior football team during their tenure. Their dedication to the players and the jersey has been greatly appreciated by all involved with Mayo GA. We wish Kevin and his management team every success in the future, both on and off the field. An update regarding the future management of the senior football team will be provided in due course. What did you make of this? I cannot get over how, particularly in the GA, we managed to shoot ourselves in the feet so badly. There's a way of going about your business. I do wonder with these statements, how many people do they show them to? Is it a solo run? Not being smart. If you sent that to a journalist that you were somewhat acquainted with, they would say, hold on here, relieved of your duties. This is basically, you've given him the boot, essentially. And you can just say these things in so many better ways. Like the fact that Kevin McStay's health and his current health issues weren't mentioned in the press release, and there was very little empathy there. I don't know. It wouldn't sit well with me at all, and I know it didn't sit well with the likes of Lee Keegan and a few more from Mayo. I think there's a way of going about your business correctly, and this is not it.
It was shocking. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. It popped up on my feed, and I clicked into it, and I was like, "This seems like almost fake." It was so unnatural to read it like that, coming from a county board or like a GAA team. I think you hit the nail on the head. It's not just that the statement was disrespectful. It was just cold, and it was kind of Premier League language almost when they get rid of a manager. As you said, there's so many ways to word that differently. It's just I couldn't get over. But I think the most shocking thing is that there was no one in the room savvy enough to actually just, even if like it came across as if there's almost ill feeling or a lack of respect, even if that is the case, which I don't know if it is or not, but even if that is the case, for no one in the room to be savvy enough and clued in enough to read that and think, hang on a second, lads, at the very least, from a self-serving point of view, this makes us look bad. Like, this makes us look like kind of heartless, and it reflects poorly on Mayo GA. I'd agree. How many people are looking at that? If it's a
Yeah.
room full of fellas, you'd really worry. Like, you'd really worry about the fellas in that room and how, like, what sort of connection do they have to the people in Mayo, or what connection do they have to the GA community? Because that seems like a massive disconnect to get that, so the tone of it so badly wrong.
It's mad as well, right? Last night was exactly 10 days, nearly to the hour from when they exited the championship. 10 days, right? Do you remember like how long that review process took last year? Like that went on for months. So was there a review process? McSay was down to serve another year. It was going to be 4 years. Was going to be his tenure. So is this just an executive solo run? Was there any debrief with management at all? There's a fair amount of questions that kind of need to be answered. And obviously, the rumor mill is already flying about who's going to be his successor. And you'd say probably one of them is heavily involved with one of the counties playing this weekend as well, which probably doesn't help his situation either. And I'm obviously speaking about Andy Moore in Monaghan as well. So it's just, it's a funny kind of a way to go about it. And listen, I understand maybe that Kevin McStay mightn't have wanted to leave. And that means obviously there's a division between the two of them. One wants something, another wants another. But you know, you don't even need to word it then necessarily. You can put it a different. You can definitely put a different kind of a spin on it, and the spin they put on it looks negatively on them. And like it looks like they're disrespecting one of their most favourite sons, to be honest with you. An all-star player for them. Obviously played in an All-Ireland final, managed them for three years. You know, it leaves a very, very sour taste, I'd imagine, for all concerned that were involved in the setup.
Yeah, and like as you said, it shouldn't really matter. But McStay seems like a really decent guy, and you say well, maybe results didn't go his way. That's fair enough. Look, and maybe there was time for a change. I don't know, but like just to not have the kind of, first of all, just the actual genuine respect to put out a better statement than that, but then just to compound it by not recognizing before you put it out that it was wrong, and the timing of it, as you said, like what's to be gained from doing it now? Like they're not going to get a new manager in the next 2 weeks. Like put it off for another while and let the season kind of die down a bit, and then let the fella, like they're not going to be playing until next January. Like there's no rush with it. And as you said, like I don't know what the issue was with his health. But to not mention it at all, it just I don't know. Like I think it's embarrassing for Mayo football, and look, if I was a Mayo fan, I'd be really disappointed with how things have been handled.
Speaking of statements, Donegal obviously put out a statement on Monday as well. They have that 6-day turnaround. They were the last team to play last weekend. They're the first team to play this weekend. You're smirking. You definitely have an opinion on this.
No, look, it's like they're right. I look there like it's not fair. It isn't fair to have a 6-day turnaround when Kerry have 8. Like that isn't a fair, I suppose, a way of doing it. Like, and it was said before, it was known beforehand that people were talking about this. Like, surely they won't get 6. And I think the consensus was that because McGuinness had complained before that about something else, that they weren't going to do it to him again. But they did. I don't know. Maybe it was a factor that he'd complained before, and they said, "Look, sure, let's just do it that way." But I'm sure, like the main thing was that they didn't want to put Armagh and Kerry on the same day as Donegal and Tyrone, and that's the long and the short of it. They didn't want to combine the Dublin crowd and the Armagh crowd, because let's say, for example, you would have probably got a full house for that double header if that was the case. Maybe the next day you might have got 50,000. That's 130 total. They'd be looking at saying, if we get we might get 75 and 70 or whatever. Like, I don't know what the crowds are going to be, but they might get the extra 10,000 or something out of it, which is a lot of money to them, obviously. The Dubs are always on Saturday evening. And I think the Kerry Armagh game is the pick of the bunch, and it was probably their preference to have that on as the headline game on the Sunday. And then you have the fact that if Kerry and Armagh and Dublin and Tyrone were both on the Saturday, they'd both be on GA+. And if that happened, there would have been holy war on social media and all the rest of it, that those games are behind the paywall. So like, they're right in what they're saying. They're absolutely right in what they're saying. Like, as far as supposedly someone said that all the county boards made
Yeah.
applications or they tried to approach the CCCC saying they wanted to play on the Sunday. No, Kerry had no right to do that. So that was really chancing their arm. But look, Donegal are in the same boat. Donegal we're in the same boat, and like, it was going to fall against someone. It's unlucky for Donegal. Does it make a huge difference? I don't know. You'd have to ask a strength and conditioning expert about that. Like, they have been on the road a good bit this season. No more so than Galway. In fact, Galway have had more away games. So, it's not easy for them. I'm sure that, like, a 6-day turnaround versus a 7-day turnaround versus an 8-day turnaround, you're talking about small percentages, and that can make the difference. Donegal are a running team. Like, they are a team that leans on their fitness a lot. So I'm sure that's in Jim McGuinness's mind and on the county board's mind. But having said that, look, they pulled away in their last game against Lowe. They're not saying they had to put in zero effort, but like, they were comfortable in the end. It wasn't a really tough game going down the stretch. So they have that in their favour. So I think if you look at the odds, the consensus is that they should be okay. But I can see why they weren't too pleased.
If it was the decision between Donegal and Galway playing in the first game on Sunday, surely the team that finished second in their group should have been the team that was rewarded. And I understand that Galway went to Nori, but they finished third in their group. Everybody is saying if Galway had beaten Tyrone and topped the group, they wouldn't have had to worry about this and they would have had a week's rest. That's fair enough. But do you understand where I'm coming from?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. It's a good point, definitely. I didn't think of that.
Yeah, I just find it strange. I do actually have a lot of sympathy with McGuinness in this regard. I'd like to know the conversations behind closed doors, though.
Yeah.
That's obviously what's coming out. And listen, I'm sure they were predominantly his words that were in the statement. Probably dumbed down a bit, to be honest with you, because I'd say his words would have been a bit stronger even than that. But the almighty dollar has won out here over player welfare. There's no point in saying any difference, and that is the way it has worked out. Just on that's the first of the 4 quarterfinals, obviously this weekend. Monaghan, an unbelievably high scoring team. What did they put up? I think they put up 120 when they were beaten by Donegal in that Ulster quarter final. Funny enough, like, they had a 5-week break after that, and they've had a 2-week break coming into this. They should be fresh. Like, this is some opportunity for them. There was very little between them when they played in that Ulster quarter final. You'd imagine whatever edge they might have in terms of sharpness and just that, a little bit of freshness as well would be on a Monaghan side. But they've struggled to get over the line in Croke Park against bigger teams like this, traditionally down through the last decade or so, when they've had really, really good teams. Do you see it been any different on Saturday?
Not particularly, no. I do like them. I think they've got really nice forwards. I'm a big fan of Stephen O'Hanlon. I think he's an absolute class act, and he's very pacey. I think every time I see him play, I'm like, geez, I just love watching him get on the ball. I think that, like, they, as you said, that they are dangerous going forward. You might have question marks about them possibly going the other way. Like, it is set up to be maybe closer than people realise. The one thing about Donegal, and it's not really about whether they win, lose or draw, but Jesus, they can be a tough enough watch at times. Even in the new rules, they do slow things down. They're very structured defensively. They're probably the only team out of all the kind of teams remaining that you're like, are they that entertaining? I said it before. Jim McGuinness obviously doesn't care, and Donegal people won't care if they win the All Ireland. It doesn't really matter. But that's the one downer about that game. But I think Monaghan have a right good chance. I think. I definitely wouldn't rule them out. I wouldn't rule anyone out this weekend. I think any of the teams can beat each other, and that's what makes it so appetizing.
I think it's going to be fascinating from a Donegal point of view if they can get over this weekend and come through, without any major injuries or anything like that, and buy themselves the 2 weeks. I think they're a seriously dangerous animal. But this is the weekend that you'd just be worried that the last couple of weeks maybe might catch up on them. I don't think it will when push comes to shove. But the game that they play, and the fact that it is predominantly hand pass based and it's predominantly movement based rather than kicking ball in 50 yards or anything like that, it's very attritional. Maybe that won't catch them this weekend. Maybe it'll catch them another weekend. But I don't see them being caught this weekend. I would expect a fairly high scoring affair and Donegal to get through. The second game then on Saturday, Dublin against Tyrone, sure, a lot of this hinges on whether Con is fit or
Yeah.
not. And there's varying reports of how fit he was even last weekend and whether he was actually fit to come in. I know he was warming up at one stage and he did the warm up beforehand, but there are genuine worries about whether he'll even be in the 26th this weekend. So, like, if he's playing, like, it's like when he played them 3 years ago in the semi final and nobody knew basically until half an hour beforehand. And a lot does hinge on that. And I know it might sound simplistic, but with him, even 70% fit, like, geez, he just, the calm and influence up front, their shot taking is better. There's more belief, I think, that is well up front and probably seeps through the whole way through the team. But without him, it does drain away. Like, he's a big, big factor whether he plays or not.
100%. I think it probably is the defining factor in the game because there isn't much between the two teams. I think as much psychologically as anything else for the opposition. I know from Kerry's point of view, when he's not in the team, you're like, okay, like that's a big bonus coming into this game, and it gives you a boost. And I'm sure it'll give the Tyrone players a boost on the day as well. I think again, this is probably arguably the closest. I mean, obviously Kerry and Armagh could go either way either, but I think this is probably the closest. I think the odds reflect that. I think they're kind of basically the same odds more or less going up against each other. But I like Tyrone. I've liked them all year, even though they got relegated. They were so unfortunate to go down. McCurry's been playing brilliant football. I think McKernan's in trouble, isn't he? He broke his collarbone, so like that's a big loss. All right, on that side, but I do like Tyrone, and they have been a bit hit and miss themselves, but I don't think they've been as up and down as Dublin have been. And when Dublin have been down, they really haven't been great at all. So I'd be leaning towards Tyrone in that match. But as you said, the con factor is massive.
Yeah, that's the real game of the weekend. That's really on a knife edge. You do well to confidently predict. And you couldn't really, just because
No,
you're not 100% sure what personnel are going to be there. I do think it's gas, though, when you look back at all the questions that were kind of thrown at Cluxton at post the Mead game, and have the new rules kind of made him redundant or whatever. And if anything, like, he's as good as ever in that regard. Like, his kickouts are unreal. They're like arrows. O'Coffin Byrne has come into the play big time. He's been a massive, massive asset. Whether he can put two or three big games in a row, it's going to be another story. But I probably think the Dubs will just about get through. I still Tyrone, I think I'd be the same as you. I think we had a chat about them months ago. All the potential in the world. You're not 100% sure what you're going to get on a given day. And I'd probably go back to the Mayo game, really, when I kind of make that kind of assessment. So I think the Dubs might just get through there. The first game on Sunday, Meath and Galway. I think Meath are one of the most underestimated teams in the country.
yeah,
Ye probably underestimated about Church Barron. Whereas Galway are getting plenty of hype. But by Jesus, like, Galway haven't blown anyone away or anything like that. They've put up big scores and they've been really entertaining games. But really, really tight games. Go back through their last, 3 or 4 games now at this stage, Connacht final included. Are you expecting them to catch fire a bit in Croke Park, or how do you see this one going?
I give Mead a really really good chance, like a really good chance. I think they're the price is wrong on them. I think that they've beaten Dublin, they've beaten Kerry. I've seen Mead people say that they're being disrespected. I'd agree with it. I think
Yeah.
that people are still taking them for granted. I'm sure Galway won't the next day, but I definitely, Jesus, like that. I was at that game in Tullamore when they turned Kerry over, and they've got so many good players. They've got so many good players, good footballers. They've got a lot of size as well around the middle third, and I know Galway do as well. That'll probably be the winning and losing of the game. But I genuinely think that Meath have a great chance. Galway, like, I suppose, encouraging the fact that Shane Walsh was so good, so good in the last game. I know he got a bit of a bang, but we'll see how he is. I think that I think Meath have enough weapons to trouble Galway in a really meaningful way. And as I said, I think they are being underestimated. I wouldn't be at all surprised if Meath advance there. And at that stage, if they're after beating Dublin, Kerry, and Galway, then will they get a bit of respect?
Yeah, as you said there, they've beaten Dublin and Kerry in the one season. I think you have to go back to good 16 or 17 years. I think could have been Tyrone in 05 or 08, I'm not sure. Beat the two of them. Could
Yeah,
have been 08 actually. They're the last team to beat the two of them in the same championship season. I actually fancy Mead to get over
yeah.
the line. I think they might just about, and I think the attritional nature of what Galway have dealt with, up until this point might just catch up, and there would be a little bit of a worry about Walsh's fitness, and obviously you're not 100% sure about Comer's fitness either. Just a comment in there from Garrodo go crack on. He says, "Mad that Conor Callan hasn't won Footballer of the Year in his career. He's up there with Clifford as one of the best footballers to play the game." Yeah, I think that just comes back to, like, he was actually nearly bulletproof injury wise for so long, and then it's kind of been one thing after the next, and he hasn't really got to build up a great sequence. He was very close, I'd say, to Footballer of the Year. The year he was very poor in the final against G in 23. Remember, it was probably I would say probably one of his worst championship performances for Dublin, and it's mad that they won, because I would have said the same about McCarthy probably the same day as well. But he just hasn't. I think the early part of his career, he got Young Footballer there, and he's a couple of All-Stars, obviously. But there's just been a few injuries here and there that have probably kind of curtailed him a small bit. The final game on Sunday, Adam, yourselves and Armagh, how do you see this going? When you make your ultimate assessment, try and take the heart aspect out of it.
Armagh are going to walk it. No, look, you have to be concerned from Kerry's point of view. There's no point denying it. The injuries, Diarmuid O'Connor being presumably out now as well, after, like, Jesus, it was heartbreaking for him against Cavan on Saturday to go down after 3 seconds. It just couldn't have gone any worse, and you'd really feel for him. You'd feel for
some people. It's funny. Some people would say, "How do you not know, like, beforehand?" I talked out in a senior B semi-final for Burr a couple of years ago, and I just nicked my hamstring about 2 weeks previous, but I rehabbed like so hard and whatever, and I never did 100% sprint because you're not going to risk it beforehand. But literally 2 minutes into the game, it was like, that little ding, and it was like gone. Like, so, like, you don't really know until you actually take to the field, because no matter what you say about warm up, at no stage are you going 100%. So, like, anyone that says, "Oh, why was he out there in the first place," or whatever, like, that's why. And you only really twig it when you actually go between the four lines.
Yeah, and I don't know. I've never had a shoulder injury like that, but I'd imagine the shoulders, particularly, it can just go, and it's a very tricky one to get right. But it was just so unlucky. Like, Jesus, like, just like, you could see how disappointed he was. He tried to stand for a few minutes afterwards, but it was obvious that he was in big trouble. So yeah, look, with him out, it's a massive blow. Mike Breen, question marks over his hamstring. Paul Ganey, question marks over his shoulder, and whether he's going to be back. He's playing great football all season. So with that in mind, and the fact that it's an 8-day turnaround, which is better than 6, but it's not as good as 14. Like, you would say that the signs are pointing towards Armagh. Look, they've been probably overall the best team over the course of the season. They're the reigning champions. They've had their 2-week break. They don't appear to be too hamstrung with injuries. They're going to bring a big crowd to Croke Park the next day and trying to use that to their advantage as well. So I think that the signs are pointing towards them. Look, I wouldn't be as down as some Kerry people are about it. I wouldn't be writing them off at all. I think if you're sitting in that dressing room and you look around and you see the two Cliffords there and Shawnee O'Shea, and, like, there's plenty of other guys who are, all-star caliber footballers in the dressing room, you always have a chance. I think a lot of things need to go right for Kerry, primarily getting their hands in primary possession and breaking ball around the middle of the pitch, because that's where they fell apart against Meath. I think if Kerry can get enough hands on ball around the middle area of the pitch, and I know this applies to every game because it's such an important factor nowadays, but particularly for Kerry, I'm sure they'll score. Like, I'm sure they'll get the ball to Clifford and they'll score. I'm sure that he'll probably enjoy Croke Park more than he has enjoyed Croke Park in recent seasons, when he's been facing more packed defences than he might be this season, hopefully, anyway, from a Kerry perspective. But that is the worry. Look, with Diarmuid O'Connor out, I never said with Jack Barry out, with Barry Dan O'Sullivan, with Barry Dan out, we could be seeing Sean O'Brien midfield, who had a very good game against Cavan, but he's not the most experienced guy. He's a player I really like. You could see Mark O'Shea, who hasn't played hardly at all. I think he's started he made his debut starting in the championship against Meath. So he hasn't got much experience either. Joe O'Connor obviously is having a really good season overall, so he could slot in there. I could actually see Joe playing midfield for a part of the game and half forward for a part of the game. But they're really lighting options there, and we know Armagh can be quite strong there as well. So I think that could be the winning and losing of the game. I'm not giving up hope. I'm travelling up. We still a bit of hope that Kerry can do it. But if you're calling a spade, I think the Armagh have kind of a lot of things in their favour.
I think you go flat to the mat for about an hour, and I think you could even lead up until that point. I just think the lack of options, lack of depth, the injuries they have to catch at some stage. Baron Clifford has one of these like 3-7 kind of afternoons. If he does something like that, like something ridiculous, I think something like that is going to need to happen for you to win. I think just with the lack, like, Jesus, Armagh could run 8-9 lads off the bench, and it's not gonna weaken the thing. Do you know what I mean? Really,
Yeah.
they've obviously have a couple of injuries, but not the major, and even the emergence of McQuillan, Darren McMullen, Jardy O'Burns, all lads
Yeah.
start the All Ireland final last year. That will probably tip the balance in favour of Armagh for me. I'm looking at Donegal, Dublin, Meath, and Armagh. That's what I'm looking at. What are you looking at?
Well, if you go with the 4 underdogs, right? No, Tyrone, Dublin, you can pick either or because they're both 11-10. But the 4 underdogs will get you 70-1.
Wow,
something like that. Like, which is crazy.
In 4 tight games, like relatively tight.
Yeah. Like, like say Meath are 11-4, Monaghan are 11-4. That's where the odds are coming from. Really multiplying those, but like you're talking about 2 of those teams, you could be picking a Kerry and a Tyrone or a Kerry and Dublin. Geez, like I don't think there's a big surprise there if either of those teams win. Meath, like we're saying there, that's not a big surprise if they win. Could Monaghan turn over Donegal? Now I know this is the thing; they all have to happen for the bet to come in, obviously. But I think that's like I'm actually going to throw a fiver on that. To be honest with you,
good man.
Actually, no.
After Dublin beating Limerick last weekend, anything is possible.
100%. Yeah, that was great. I was in the kind of media briefing room when that game was finishing up in Fixture Stadium. We were all watching it on my phone, and Jesus, it was incredible. I couldn't believe it. And Jack came in, and Jack was kind of like Jack wanted a very brief press briefing, which wouldn't be unusual, but he ended it by saying he was in the middle of one of his answers, and he goes, "Geez, that was some win by the Dublin hurlers," and he completely cut off everything. Everyone's like, "Yeah," he goes, "Geez, that was the win of the century." He goes, "Yeah," and that was the end of the press conference. But yeah, it was incredible. But yeah, I'm hoping for a big shock now, like Kerry beating Armagh. That'll be on the par now with Dublin beating Dublin hurlers beating Limerick.
Adam, great stuff. I think Nisha is waiting in the background, so we'll bring him in. Thanks a mil, and we'll review all of them next week. Come on, thanks a mil. Nisha might jump in there. What's the crack?
Well, how's it going?
What a mad Saturday evening. Forget about the events down in the Gaelic grounds. Like, Jesus, Crow Park was something else. As Jack O'Connor said there, the shock of the century. It was a fair old shock now.
Yeah, it was brilliant. Like, it was like, the way people always say, like, it was a tonic. We had a club event that night, a social gathering, like whatever, and everybody was buzzing. All in the Gaeloga, the parents and the coaches and all. It was just, and then people texting into the groups and all. Like, it was just, it was brilliant. Like, and on so many levels, like, because lads that have been on and off the panel, like a Hedgehoe especially, like, to come in and make that kind of an impact, and then younger lads coming through, like someone like Dara Power coming on and making an impact as well, and doing it as well, like without Donald Burke, without Danny Sutcliffe, and Owen O'Donnell leaving the panel as well. It's huge, like, and then Sean coming back, because it was one of them games you're watching it going, this was probably the most frustrating thing, is Dublin should have been way further ahead.
Oh yeah,
like, they probably should have won by somewhere between 8 and 10 points. And the way the game was going, you're like, typical Dublin now. This is just, they'll slip in here now. Limerick will score a goal. And when it got to 18-18, like, I was like, here we go, 14 men. And how hot it was in Dublin that day. I don't know how they kept going at that pace for that long with 14 players. But when Galan slips in, and you're going, this is it. And Sean pulls off one of the best saves you'll ever see. And then fist pumps it like as if he was fouled in a Munster Championship match.
He did it twice as well. He waited for it. He came back and did it again. Like.
it was class. It was just brilliant. Like, lads, like, the full back line, like McHugh, Bellew, Smith, best game they've played this year by a mile. Like, by a mile. And the half back line as well, with Crummy going out even too. It's it was an unbelievable performance. Conor Burke obviously got man of the match, but like, I mean, I'd say almost every time he touched the ball, he was hitting it over the bar. Like,
Yeah,
it was
from
just
a standing position as well. I couldn't believe he had so much time on the ball. It was actually, from a Dublin point of view, they were unbelievable. From a Limerick point of view, how such a tactically astute outfit got it so wrong with an extra man. Like, I couldn't believe that the extra man kept switching. At one stage it was Finn, at one stage it was Casey, at one stage it was Dan Morrissey. Barry Murphy was the free man for long stages in the second half, having only come on to the pitch. It was really weird from that respect, but just from a Dublin point of view, as you say there, they were hitting bad wides, but just when they always needed to get a score, the next one would go over, if you get me. It wasn't like 4 in a row, but there was no like sequence of 3 or 4 points in a row without a wide. It was like a wide, 2 points, 2 wides, 2 points. Do you know what I mean? They should have been well clear.
Oh, way clear. Like, so even Hedgeho's one where he did the dummy on his right side, turned back onto his left, and he hit it wide on the near side, and you're kind of going, oh, come on, like, he never misses them. And then Ray McBride, obviously, as well, he'll be annoyed too, like, missed a handy enough point, and then missed the goal chance as well. We're going, oh, these are the kind of things that come back and bite you all the time. But like, when Curry is as good as he was in the freeze, and then when Sean is in goal pulling off a save like that, like, you know, that's worth 5, 6, 7, 8 points. Like, you know, that was brilliant. It was a real shot in the arm that like Dublin needed, because I think even by the way Limerick were playing and just the way people were talking about it before it, like that, it was like a case of like, right, look, no matter what kind of a fight Dublin put up, Limerick will pull away here and they'll win.
Yeah.
And that's what, when was it English got the point to make it 18-18?
No, they went one up. They went 19-18 up.
Yeah,
he put them 19-18 up. Yeah,
that was it. Yeah, I think he got 2 in a row or 2 of 3 or something. And then you're kind of going, oh, here, yeah, this is when they'll kick on. But then they didn't. The Dublin didn't let him. So like, this was the other thing. It was like, it was a case of, all right, Limerick weren't brilliant, but Dublin were brilliant and didn't allow Limerick to be really good. Like, they were cutting out long range passes, like just running with the sliver at pace, finding men. Like Keane O'Sullivan, Ronan Hayes were absolutely brilliant. Brian Hayes was brilliant as well, with Conor Burke. So yeah, like you said, I thought at half time Limerick could be like, okay, right, we had a bad 20 minutes there with the spare man. This is what we're going to do. Midfield, wake up, and this is the changes we need to make, and we're going to drive it into them here, lads, right, and carry the ball a bit more, make them come to us in this heat, and try and run them ragged. But they didn't. They just, it was strange. It was strange. Brilliant from Dublin. What they did from the puck outs was really, really smart, I thought, when the camera went behind and you could see, and Don Lowe kind of referred to this, they overloaded one side of the field, kind of underneath the Hogan, because they're a man down. I thought, like, God, that's something if I'm ever over a team now, I'll have to use this. You just overload one side and drive it down and keep pucking it there, and rely on winning breaks, like, because they shouldn't. You shouldn't be getting outnumbered at the breaks, as the spare man will be obviously trying to sit back and cover the goal, like, or whatever, or, you know, not concede goals. But just how effective a target man is, by no matter how much hurling changes, it'll always stay the same.
It's hard beaten. Like, I couldn't believe the impact Hedgehow had off the bench. Like, just even, there was a couple of things. He was just holding up Dan Morrissey. Yeah. I know that sounds really simple, but he was just holding him up. It meant that he couldn't get on the front foot. They were always striking on the back foot. Even the time he went through Burns, and you're just like, he went through him. And like, that's just, there was a couple of times in the game where Dublin executed like hits like that, and a couple of them were the other side of the line, and a couple of them were on the line. But like, Burns was knocked back, and it's very hard to just get up and like go again after something like that. Hannon was on the field about 2 minutes, and he got upended twice, and you could see him coming out of ruck, and he was like dazed. And you've been in a situation, which I have as well, when you come into a game or you're not expecting something, and then all of a sudden you're like this, and you're like, I wasn't really ready for this. And it kind of looked like that all across the field at different stages.
And that's what club hurling in Dublin is like as well. When you come on, like, you need to be ready to get hit and hit again and hit again. And like the physicality in Dublin hurling, like, it's ferocious. Like, the club hurling, it's absolutely ferocious. Like, so then when you used to win, you go outside of Dublin. Obviously, it kind of came down a level, but then we had to keep it at our level or whatever, or push it on. But like, that was the thing you saw with Nafina as well. It's just, they hunt in packs. They're ferocious on the breaks. There's nothing easy. You're not going to come out easy. And like that's just the way Dublin hurling has been for the last probably 10, 12, 15 years. Dublin or Limerick hadn't recovered physically from the Munster final and maybe mentally. Yeah, I mean, maybe they didn't. Maybe they didn't. I mean, they were beaten around the place in the Munster final. They were allowed to be beaten up a bit.
The thing
But
about that as
they
well
had a
is,
break.
a lot of people were calling for replays. How beaten up would Limerick have been if they played, a replay and then rocked in last week? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Like they had a break. I mean, they had a 2-week break. Dublin didn't. So if they couldn't get ready for it, they were never going to be ready for it. And I mean, you're going up to play an All-Ireland quarter-final in Croke Park. If you're not mentally ready for that, you shouldn't be talking out, really. It doesn't matter who you're playing. And then Dublin were ready. It looked like, it was funny, like I was talking to a couple of people this, it looked like Dublin had been preparing the whole season to play a match in Croke Park because they hadn't played like that in the Leinster Championship at all. The game against Wexford was wild and really exciting and all, and a good hurling game. Game against Kilkenny was just a crazy hurling match as well. But they were very, very poor against Galway. Like very poor against Galway until the last couple of minutes when they got a couple of goals. But just the backs, like I had said a couple of times on here with you, like as well, it was like about Sean has to be in goal and the backs are just the weak link here and the Crummy is the best of them. And the next thing he gets sent off and the rest of them played out of their skins. Paddy Doyle as well, sorry.
Savage.
Was absolutely brilliant. So this was something, and even I found it hard to find out when you're not there and watching. Who was it that slotted back in Crummy's place? Because you're kind of, when you're watching it on TV, you're kind of relying on the commentators to outline this stuff for you. And they didn't. Now, I know Cummins kept saying, like, oh, Limerick, it's strange. They're sticking with a zonal pattern and the free man is changing and he's too far back, which I was like, all right, that makes sense, blah, 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 blah. But then I couldn't figure out, because the thing was going so fast and all, and it's hard to tell on telly, but who was centre back for Dublin?
I would have said Burke was centre back because
Right.
he was kind of trying to play sweeper before Crummy was off.
Okay.
And it looked like he just slipped into 6, but that seemed to be where he was picking up the ball a lot of the time anyway.
Yeah, because just when he was shooting and scoring, he seemed to be between the 265s and stuff, and I was kind of going like, it was kind of going, geez, so who is the centre back? But yeah, Burke would make sense, all right, because like I've seen him play there with Vincent's a few times, like, and we played against him one of my last games with Cool. I played against him in a Division 1 league game, and he was playing centre back, and I was full forward, and he just mopped up. He's so fit and can cover the ground so well, like you weren't getting too much ball in full forward like when he was in front, so that would make sense. Yeah, but he was absolutely brilliant.
But there's so many 8s out of 10, like, didn't they? When you go through it, like, it's the dream team performance. Just to mention about Sean Brennan there, like, I tweeted it there during the week. Dublin had conceded 14 goals in their first 4 Leinster Championship games and they haven't conceded a goal in their last 3 games. The defence has obviously tightened up a hell of a lot, but I'd say it's a lot to do with the man behind him and orchestrating things kind of as well. And do you know what he did as well? Not the whole time, but at times he made himself the 14th outfielder and he was going to the far wing and giving them another option that they could go back across. And just on Conor McHugh as well, like, I just can't get over a fella making his county debut in his 30s like that, who has won football in Ireland. And like, I clipped out the video there. That moment when he goes out towards the Cusack stand sideline, and it's horrible because the last you're going for the ball, but there's only about 2 inches beside the line. So what's naturally going to happen is you're going to go and pick the ball, and unless your man pushes it, which is unlikely, you're going to carry the ball out over the line, and it's going to be a line ball. So he flicks the ball back between his legs and goes off on a solo run, and you wouldn't think it by looking at him. But like, he was ghosting away from fellas when he went running with the ball, like just breezing away from lads. And in fairness to the Saint, and I argued with him on it last week, Limerick, and I would say, and I'd pick out a few, and probably Hegarty and Morrissey in particular, that real attritional role of the half forward. I think they were very good going forward, but I don't think the same energy is there going backwards as was there 3 or 4 years ago, because they were back in their own half back lines regularly years ago. Whereas even the other day, even seeing Hegarty, and I'm not having to go up around like that. It's just the nature of it. He was brilliant going forward, but he was probably caught a couple of times even going backwards, and there was distance created and separation created, which is something you wouldn't have seen before. And any time Dublin got the ball, that's what they tried to do. They tried to speed away down the wing, and invariably they created separation, were able to get shots away. Now they missed the head for the shots, but they were still able to get shots away.
Yeah, and like with McHugh's running with the ball and Brian Hayes running with the ball, it eats up the clock as well when you're under pressure, a man down. It takes that extra 2 seconds off. Even one he kind of fumbled where he like flicked up, he's under the hug.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, but he got it back. And you're kind of going, what are you doing? But then it's like, no, well, it's actually good because it lets everyone, even if he goes ahead, the midfielders can slot back and everyone can slot back and cover to get the 6 defenders back, even if he loses it. So like no one's really out of position then because he's eating up so much time. And then Brian Hayes can do the same too. And then he's just an absolute rocket running. Like he is so fast too. And then what they did that was really smart was the way they were trying to feed Hedjo, like, right? So they know they have to change the way they deliver the ball when Hedjo's inside. It's like, well, we're not going to start pinging balls to the corners and expect Hedjo to outrun lads out to the sides. It's like, no, when he's in there, put it in the middle in front of the goal. And he's going to, because he's so tall and he's so broad, he can hold it up and then he can hurl. Like, so he can hold it up and he'll fight. So it's either going to be thrown in, he's going to win a free or else he's going to win the ball, or like what happened for Keane O'Sullivan's goal. Keane turns around, boom, he's on the break like a flash and in the goal. Like, just everything that could have, well, it was weird. Everything that could have went right nearly almost did go right, apart from obviously you get a man sent off and you're probably a little bit too wasteful and you get away with it because Sean pulls off an unbelievable save. But if they're going to beat Cork, they need everyone playing like that again, but far, far, far more clinical in front of the goal. Like, just you cannot miss those chances in front of goal. And if they could get 2-3 goals in the first half, like, they'll have Cork on the ropes.
Yeah. What do you make of O'Callaghan? I think like he tries to. I don't actually. I just think I'm not having a go at it like this. I just think he tries to kind of play the Jim Gavin at times, but he's a bit of a lunatic as well. And I mean that in a great type of way. Like, I don't know if you saw when who was coming in when Donald Burke was coming in. It was announced that Ronan Hayes was coming off, and he lost the plot. Because Hayes wasn't supposed to be coming off. It was Reid McBride that was supposed to be going off. Yeah. And he just lost it with one of his logistics people or secretary or whoever. And it was the same at half time. I love seeing him going in to Liam Gordon and not even arguing. He was asking the question or whatever. But I think this whole thing of being cool and calm and collected on the line is, I don't know, I think it's a bit of a myth unless you're with an unbelievable team. You have to be losing the plot a small bit. You have to be getting involved. And I think they probably fed off his energy a small bit as well. He was calm when he needed to be calm, but by Jays, he was balling when he needed to be balling as well.
Yeah, and that's the thing as well, is like the team will feed off your energy on the sideline. Like, if you're hands in the head and throwing on Jays on, that'll feed out to the lads. Whereas, like, if you're settled when things need to be settled, that'll feed out to the lads. And then when you're getting ramped up and all, then the boys know, well, look, if Neil is getting ramped up here, like, we need to go, come on, up it, lads, up it, and kick it up a gear. But yeah, like, and see, every time I hear anything from him, especially anyone from the Fianna, and even before now, he was the senior hurling manager in the Fianna, like, everybody loves him. Everybody around the Fianna always loved him, and they just think he's, and I was talking to Diarmuid O'Dooling as well. We were doing an under-20 match, I think, there a couple of weeks ago with TG Cahir, and I was asking him how training was going. He was coming back from an injury and all this kind of stuff, and I was asking him about Neil and how it's going on, and I was like, like, there's fair competition in the forwards for the first time maybe ever with Dublin. And he said, yeah, but Nelly, everyone calls him, like, he was like, but Nelly is ruthless. He just goes, geez, he's ruthless. I said, is he? Yeah. And he says, yeah, ruthless. And then, so he obviously knows what he's doing, because look what he's done with the Fianna. But then, like, it's not too often you get, we've seen it loads of times. People are really successful with clubs because the club is a strong set of players and stuff like that. But then it doesn't really translate to a county team, because you might be going in, obviously, to like Galway, for example. They have these unbelievably strong clubs. Antrim as well, unbelievably strong clubs. But then, and Dublin too now. But then when it gets to county level, the county isn't as strong, so it's not as easy a transition. But you'd be delighted for people like Neil and then the lads that are helping as well. It's all dubs, like, and that's probably feeding into it as well. Because again, remember this stat that goes around all the time. So the 4 semi-finalists again now in the hurling, they're all managed by their own people. You know.
Yeah, it's mad.
I don't think that's any coincidence, like, at all.
Name the last outside hurling manager to win All Ireland.
Was it Michael Bond from Offaly?
Yeah, it's mad. And John O'Mahony in 2001 with Galway is the last outside football manager. So, you see Dottie O'Callaghan knocking around there as well. I think he's in doing kind of forwards coach or some sort of coaching with him as well. Like a lot of kind of familiar kind of Dublin faces or whatever. Just on Limerick, what do you see over the next couple of years from Limerick now? This was something that listen, I don't know if anybody outside of the Dublin dressing room expected this realistically. Very, very few. Maybe the same energy isn't there. As I said about some lads maybe not being able to cover ground like they were before. That was the first real time I've probably noticed it. And maybe that was partly to do with the Munster final as well, and the hangover of that, both mental and physical. But it's also, I thought there was weird things happen now the other day. Even before the game started, Shane O'Brien wasn't in the 26. Then he's in the 26, and then he comes on. That to me, that's strange. And I know he's unbelievable and he's been brilliant for them, but I did think it was strange bringing Declan Hannon on centre back with 20 minutes to go. I thought there's no point in saying any different. I thought that was strange. He came on wing back in the Munster final. He clipped a point after about a minute, and he had no great impact on the game thereafter. That's just calling it as a spade, I think, to be honest with you. When he came on the other day, as I said, he got a couple of hits and looked even frazzled. And I don't think it's any coincidence that the 2 Dublin goals came down that kind of centre channel as well, and it looked wide open there as well. I thought it was strange to move Hayes out of centre berth or centre back berth when the most important part of the game was coming. Now he probably got on more ball in the wing, but they suffered down the middle as a result as well. Mm-hmm. Like Darragh O'Donovan has been fit for the last 3 months, from what I gather, and I do think it was strange that he didn't see game time the other day. I don't know. There was just some strange things kind of happened across the afternoon that I wouldn't have seen before. And it's probably the first time now where there's going to be... listen, they've been winning the whole time before this, so you're not really going to get much negativity, because how negative can you be when a team is winning? But there will be some negative stuff put out there now, and there will be questions asked now.
Yeah, and another fella I'd love to know what's going on with him is Seamus Flanagan. Like, yeah. I don't know how you don't play him at all, even. Like, not even coming on for 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Like, I don't understand how a fella that good and that important for that amount of time can't even merit 10 or 15 minutes on the field.
I have a theory, and it could be absolute SH1T. But I don't think the fact that he did media duties after Limerick were knocked out last year helped him. That could be absolute horse manure, I'm talking. But he did a good few bits and pieces, and he did BBC Today, the All Ireland, and he did a live show off the ball. Maybe I'm talking one. Well, maybe I am, but that's maybe there's something to it as well, because he scored 3-3 against Cork in the championship last year. That's a year ago. And all of a sudden, he's not seeing any game time now. Maybe there's been an injury or whatever, but he's been in squads. So if he's in squads, I'm presuming he's fit.
Yeah, I do. And if that is the case, maybe you are better off leaving the panel then and just saying, well, fine.
He was reprimanded earlier on the year over that video that came out as well, and he was dropped. Whoever they played Cork, obviously, the video came out. I don't know who they played the week after, but he was dropped from the panel for that week. So I don't know how well that went down either. But he was back in squad, so I'm presuming he was back in the mix. But it was just strange that he didn't see game time.
Yeah, and obviously, like, that was a dirty stroke, and it was caught on camera by someone, and then they deal with it. But from a hurling point of view, like, when you need, a physical presence who can hurl and hold up the ball and win it, and has great chemistry with Galan inside, like how unbelievably good they have been beside each other, and then just not even to be bringing them on in matches for 10 or 15 minutes. Like, even the Munster final, I was kind of like, why wouldn't you just bring on Flanagan here? Like, especially when they took off Morrissey and Reedy, I was kind of going, surely Flanagan will be coming in. Surely, come on.
We're getting a few messages in about his form his form wasn't as good. But if his form wasn't as good, I don't think he would have been into 26. He was into 26 to be an option, you'd imagine.
Yeah, exactly. You would hope, like, otherwise, don't dress him. Like, don't. If your form is that bad, you just don't dress him. Then, like, I would think, like, if you have absolutely no intentions of playing him in any way, shape, or form, no matter how the games are going, well, then you don't even give him a jersey.
He was obviously in some sort of form to keep Shane O'Brien out at 26 initially.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's strange. There's a couple of strange things, but like, again, like, the energy level is probably low. Similar to Galway, I think they probably need to start, no matter how good, bad, and different, or how ready they are, they probably need to start with a couple of new, fresh legs now, and just. And I don't mean now 4, 5, or 6 of them. I mean like 2, 3, maybe. And then if you think about it too, like, some of them lads have had awful, just not run-of-the-mill injuries, like proper surgeries, like Sean Fane, Keane Lynch, and all. Now, I know they were still winning the All-Irelands without them lads, but like, that kind of catches up in you, and they're two massive players with Limerick.
I still thought Lynch was decent enough the other day. I thought he had a good first 15 minutes, and I thought he actually closed out the game all right. But it was the middle part where he was kind of, I don't know, McHugh got on top from probably 15 minutes till half time, I'd say, and he was quiet. But I thought he actually came back into it. But like, Burns hasn't been in the same kind of form as he was a couple of years ago. And I suppose the worry, I would say, about new players is, are there obvious lads to come in, I would say, from 2 to 7 in particular?
Yeah, Colin Coughlin, maybe, I suppose.
Cathal O'Neill as well is another one, Nisha.
Yeah.
Like, he hasn't looked sharp this year. He had 2 bad hamstring injuries. Like, he was hooked in consecutive games. I've never seen him being hooked before. He was hooked against Cork in the Munster final when going for a shot, and he was hooked the other day as well. You don't see that. There was things that happened, and even early on, I just remember Tom Morrissey going out for a ball after about 2 minutes and trying to flick it away, and I just was thinking, that was really casual. Like, it was like something you do in an old training game near the end or something. Do you know what I mean? Not in an All-Ireland quarter final.
But that's what I was saying, is like that. It just seemed like they just thought, like, right, we're going to grind this out, we're going to beat Dublin, and we're going to get ready for the semi-final. That it was like, no matter what happens here, we're winning this match. And so then it's really hard to turn that off and switch up to the higher gear when that has settled in. And they can say all they want.
That's the one thing I would say, Nisha, though. That's the one thing they've always done. Remember when Tipp were burying them in that Munster final, and they've played terrible in games. Remember Kilkenny went 4 or 5 up in All-Ireland final, 22, I think. And Limerick they have turned the screw before when not playing well at all and been under pressure. But there was no turn it the other day for whatever reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, it was just strange. Like that. That's why at half time I was kind of like, right, this is mad. Geez, Dublin are doing really well, but Limerick, like they've done, like you were saying there, like that Tipp game there, or the couple of Tipp games especially, and like, right, they'll correct whatever has to be corrected, and they'll come out now, and again, how hot it was in Dublin and humid and all that day, and how Dublin kept going at that speed, that pace, and covering the ground they did, especially in the backs, was unbelievably impressive. So it just, I thought, right, they'll push the spare man up a bit, and they'll start carrying it and creating overlaps, and make Dublin chase shadows and pick off points from 50, 60 yards, like the way they've done. But it didn't look like they changed anything in the second half.
No,
not.
It was funny because Dublin really rolled the dice. Like, there was about 50 yards in front of Aidan O'Connor and Gillan at regular stages, but they kind of rolled the dice and were like, we'll leave it there, and hopefully we think we can win the war out the pitch and not allow that good ball to come in. Something else I thought was interesting as well. Dublin showed them the outside and let them have the outside a good few times. I remember Adam English going at Conor Burke in the first half, and he gave him the 5 yards and was like, no matter what, I'm not conceding a goal. Every time Aidan O'Connor got the ball, he was never let go inside. He was always given a couple of yards. They were actually happy for them to shoot from the outside, and even there was a couple of brilliant tackles. Paddy Smith was beating all ends up by Gillan at one stage in the first half, and he just dragged them down. There was a definite black card by Bellew, I think, around the 50th minute mark. I don't know how it wasn't a black card and a penalty, but it wasn't. Who was it? Yeah, there was a couple of things. I thought Dublin were smart and clinical and ruthless enough when they needed to be as well, in fairness to them.
Well, the black card was a joke. Like, people were texting into one of the groups I was in and goes, oh, thank God they got rid of the black card rule. and I just go, oh, have they? I didn't hear that. Like, and he was like, no, they haven't. But that like you would have thought they did, because that was a black card. Like if the
Oh
rule
yeah.
is there, like use the rule. But like,
They've just abandoned it. They have
it's
like
just typical.
it's like they made an edict like, lads, unless it's murder, don't give black cards in
Yeah,
Ireland.
it's just typical championship. You're just allowed to do what you want, and the ref will just go, sure, hurl away there. Yeah, no, it's a free, and actually it's a yellow card, and you're kind of going, well, anyway. Look, yeah, they played the game exactly how they needed to play it, except for the scoring. They just wasted, and just they missed way too many chances, and luckily got away with it. But I don't think they'll get away with it against Cork. They have to finish those chances. They just do. They really do. And I think as well, depending on what they do with, like, are they going to start with Hedjo, or are they going to wait and bring him on? Dara Power as well. Are they going to wait and bring him on too? I think Dublin can get goals on Cork as well. I really think they do. And if they get 3, I think they'll have Cork on the ropes and they'll rock them.
Hedgehow starts full forward against Cork, doesn't he? Given
You would,
the problems that Cork have had with a bigger man at different stages.
you would think so. Be interesting to see what they do now with Crumley suspended as well. How do they set up? How do they organise? Who goes centre back, who goes midfield. It'd be interesting to see what they do tactically.
Don't know who's back now, obviously, as well. He'd be back. You'd imagine he'd probably start in midfield.
Yeah, probably maybe Conor Burke centre back. Be interesting to see now, because if Dublin can stay with Cork, and kind of once the speed goes out of the Cork players, like kind of around the 40th, 50th minute, if they haven't opened them for a few goals by then, I think Dublin have a great chance to win this match.
Okay. The other semi-final was there was never going to be anything like the drama that we had in Croke Park, and it's gas like 15,000 people in the Gaelic grounds. It's fairly pathetic for a quarter final. Obviously, there's a cost problem there as well. It was the same cost for that as a standalone, I believe, as what it was for a double header in Croke Park, and a good double header. So it doesn't really make any sense. But I know Dennis Walsh was saying in the Times that he reckons Tipperary outnumbered Galway 8-1, and it's gas how much can change within the year, because Cork were outnumbering Tipp 8-1 when they played them in the last round of the round robin, Munster in 24, but it's all changed around, and Tipp have really gotten behind this team, in fairness to them, and in fairness, the Tipp squad have given them plenty to get behind as well. They're a real honest to God team at the minute, and you have a fair idea what you're going to get from them, and they've a lot of lads hurling good stuff, and they're dangerous going into that semi-final.
They are, yeah, but like the thing is with them is, like, they're all really good, skillful hurlers, and they were allowed to hurl against Galway. So this is the one thing. It was like, and now when Galway cut it back close, Tipp were able to actually pull away then and like squash them again. They did that probably twice, 2 different stages in the game, especially at the end. They just pulled away at the end, but like, God, Galway were nowhere near them. Like, just leaving John McGrath and Jason Ford like do that to you in the first half is like, will you just mark them? Just mark them. Like, it was crazy to watch, because like, after you'd be so high after watching the Dublin Limerick, and then next thing you're hoping, because like how many times we've seen Galway and Tippy class matches, you're hoping this would be good, and it was such a letdown. Like, and that's just been Galway's season, kind of. They've been just such a letdown. But I think I kind of referred to it earlier. I think they're probably going to have to just, no matter how ready some of the young lads are, they're probably just going to have to move on from a couple of lads there, especially in the forwards. They need something different. They need pace. They need a bit of excitement. They need just something different in the forwards, because it's just not working. It's not working at all. But Tipp, yeah, like, how ready are they? Who knows?
How much do you hate Tipp?
How much do I hate Tipp?
On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you hate Tipp?
I don't know.
It's more than 10.
Is 10 a high enough number? But it's annoying, because like, now I can't wait for this typical Kenny game, because like, it's like what we've wanted for a long time, and I don't say we because I'm from Kilkenny. I mean we as hurling people watching the match. It's what we've wanted for a while now, right? But one and the other, Tipp haven't been coming out of Munster, Kilkenny, whatever, haven't been great either. lately. Well, winning Leinster's, but just, well, it's mainly down to Tipp not getting out of Munster.
Tipp
Sorry.
haven't played in
But,
Croke Park since 2019 final.
Yeah, so there you go. Yeah, right. Remember Stapo actually was saying this. He's just saying, sure, Tipp haven't played Kilkenny since 2019. It's just like, and whose fault is that?
Get out of Munster.
This will be like these two again. It's the best weekend in the hurling calendar. It's the best weekend in the sporting calendar. It's the two All-Ireland hurling semi-finals, and these two games could be absolutely brilliant. Kilkenny and Tipp, a fit Kilkenny, a fully fit Kilkenny, all 6 forwards fit, are as dangerous. And I think we talked about this a few times during the year. They are as dangerous as any forward line in the country. Yeah. Tipp being allowed to hurl like they were against Galway are as dangerous as any forwards in the country. They just are, right? Like Ormond, like great, flying. Really, really good player. Like, oh my God, Jake Morris again there against Galway was brilliant. First half, Jason Ford was brilliant. First
just
half,
on Jake Morris, Nisha. Jake Morris is the face of this new Tipp team to me. Look at how he's changed his game. He's still getting the points. He's still popping up the points, but he's doing all the horrible kind of work as well. I come back to one instance against Waterford when they were under pressure. Waterford had a great start, and he got a lad. I think it might have been Gavin Fives. I'm not sure. And he just wrapped his 2 arms around him. And all of a sudden, the ball sprays out. He got the pass, popped it over the bar, and you're just thinking, he's added something new to his game that was not there before. He wasn't seen as a forager. He was seen as a finisher. Now he's able to do kind of the two of them, and he's working unbelievably hard within that forward line as well. But they all are, and even Ormond, like Ormond looks like he's been there for 5 years at this stage, and a lot of the new faces do. Doyle does as well. Oisin O'Donoghue just seems to make an impact every time he takes to the pitch for the seniors. And Sam O'Farrell is kind of a natural enough as well, but their seed, you don't know what their ceiling is this year. You'd suspect maybe their ceiling would be an All-Ireland semi-final, and Kilkenny's experience at that level and that team's experience in the last couple of years will maybe win out by a couple of points. But you couldn't be sure. You couldn't be sure.
No, and this is why this could be absolutely electric in Croke Park as well. That both teams have. It'll come down to basically can Kilkenny's forwards, can Kilkenny's back smother the most dangerous forwards from Tipp, right? And they're not gonna like, hold them out altogether, but can they just stifle them enough that the Kilkenny forwards then can score enough to win? Because I think this game could be absolutely electric, where it'll just be, unbelievable scores, pucking up and down, high physicality, work rate, tackle rate through the roof. And the thing with Jake Morris, I think, was this year is the year that people from Tipp probably, and even myself watching Tipp, and wondering about Jake Morris, is like, this year is probably the year people have been waiting for the last probably 2 years, where it was like when the older lads who had won all the All-Irelands were kind of, just pushing on and maybe not as good as they used to be, obviously, and lads retiring and all that kind of stuff, that then it was like, right, Jake, this kind of has to be your team now. But he hadn't really stepped up, but this year he is, obviously. And then Ormond, he's very good. He is very, very good. Oisin O'Donoghue is class as well. He's absolutely class. And what a fella that you can bring on too. Like an eye for goal, unbelievable vision in general, and hands and skill and touch and all. And just, he's brilliant, and will be, obviously she's only under 20, will be, barring injuries, obviously, hopefully, an absolutely savage player going forward. So in a way, it's like there's a few of the old school heads still there, but it's also a lot of new lads that you're kind of going, God, when it comes down to the last 10 minutes, will they be able, the Tipp lads, will the Tipp forwards be able to kind of win that ball from a puck out, or win a puck out, win a free, and score the point that settles it down, or pushes them forward ahead, that kind of stuff, that where Kilkenny have Adrian Mullen, John Donnelly, Owen Cody, TJ Reid, that can do that and will do that and have done it. So Dublin versus Tipp final, watch this space. By God, a throwback to 100 years ago, or however long, when they used to be, when Dublin were in every second final, it seemed. I think Christy Rings Cork played Dublin in something like 3 or 4 finals. That's
right, yeah. That's right, yeah. You mentioned there about, those final minutes. Like, you must get a good old buzz out of seeing Noel McGrath. I know he's playing for Tipper or whatever, but just seeing what he can do at the end of a game, it was actually ridiculous what he did the other day. It was a joke, really.
But and so this is the thing, is just like a hurler with a hurling brain, and obviously obviously he doesn't have the pace, I suppose. Look, and the age he is, he's younger than me now, but like the age he is, like probably can't do the full 70 at that pace. But this is what I was kind of referring to with Dublin as well against Cork. When the pace drops, hurling wise, I think Dublin can match Cork. But when the pace drops in the game, and you can throw someone like Noel McGrath, who has the skill and the vision like that, he knows when to take his score and he knows when to give a pass. Like Oisin O'Donoghue's one, you kind of go, he gets it in an acre space where someone will plant the feet, drive it at the goal, and he just kind of goes, nah, do you know what? Let's try to get a goal here. And put it diagonally to the outside. Like, this is, anyone that's watching, this is the perfect pass to a forward, where it goes diagonal to the outside. You completely take the back out of the game. And then obviously Oisin O'Donnell catches it and does the rest. But it was just, like when you can bring on somebody like that, like I know I thought that's probably what the role TJ would have with Kilkenny, but doesn't seem to be. I thought that's what he'd end up doing now, probably this year. But it's just I just love watching good hurlers play hurling. Like,
when you're playing as an inside defender and you see a fella getting a ball out around midfield like that, and you're 50 yards in front of you, you're just literally like, please don't hit the ball in. Please don't hit the ball in. Put it over the bar. Yeah. Because I played inside on lads, and they'd be pulling their hair out because the fella's always taking the shot, and he stops making the run then, depending on the tendencies of the fella with the ball, and just that ball in is a killer for a back. Yeah. You can't defend it. How can you defend that ball going to the outside? The forward is always going to win it, barring he misses the ball, and if he wins it, it's 1-on-1 with 20, 30 yards. The body's coming back, will not get there in time. It was lovely, and I was just, because I was looking at it and I was thinking, oh, he's going to pop it over. This is the typical Noel McGrath, and he puts this ball in on a plate for him. And it's going to be really interesting, because this is probably his kind of swan song as well. And potentially maybe, well, you don't know with TJ. You're probably saying it's been his swan song for the last couple of years. But it's great that some faces that started out in 2009 against each other, particularly Noel and TJ, would have gone back all the way to 2009, and now they're meeting in 2025 in the All-Ireland semi-final.
Well, even TJ Reid came on against Waterford in 08 and scored like 5 points in the All-Ireland final.
4 points from play.
Was it? Sorry, yeah. So 08, was that his first year? Probably would have been his first year, actually. Yeah,
I think
he would have been minor. TJ would have been minor in 05. He would have been 18 in 05. So probably somewhere around 08, 07 maybe would have been his first year on the panel, maybe.
Just let me go through his 7 All-Ireland. So 7, 8, 9, 11, 12, 14, 15. Is that 8 or 7? He only has 7, I think.
Right, so maybe 8 was his first year. So
I have a feeling either him, I had a feeling either him or Richie were called in late for the 07 final, or in around the panel. I'm not 100%. Maybe one of them. It could have been Richie. But just on Galway, Nisha, you're expecting a fair rebuild, and I don't think it's. I doubt Donoghue thought it was going to be this type of a rebuild, but they're going to have to really go back to basics and build a whole new spine, I'd imagine.
Yeah, and actually, now again, maybe there's an injury or something going on, but Burns as well. Like, what happened to him? I'd love to know. Because like Galway, I'd say Micheál Donoghue had a fair idea that there was a rebuild happening, and that he had to do a big rebuild because they used the most players in the league. They used what was it, 30 or 32 players or something around that in the league. They used the most. So I'd say he had a fair idea. So this was why, again, at the start of the year, remember, I thought Dublin, Wexford, and Kilkenny had come out of Leinster. I just didn't see Galway. Just based on the league and based on who they had, and I kind of had a feeling they need to be doing some kind of a rebuild. All right, I just didn't think they'd come out of Leinster at all. What happened to Evan Nyland? Yeah, I don't know.
Funny one, isn't it?
It's just, and then not starting Tom Monaghan. Like, weird things like that, because when Tom Monaghan came on, he looked like looked like he should have been starting, gets 2 points to play, and looked like one of the only lads that had a bit of energy and wanted to get the ball. So like, it just, I don't know, but they definitely, they're going to have to, I think, you're going to have to basically turn around and be like, you know, you can only be loyal to a certain extent, and then the loyalty has to stop, and you go forward with the kind of the best thing for Galway hurling at the forefront, because it's just like, look, we need to start developing lads over the next 2 or 3. It's kind of like when Liam Cahill came in with Tipp, and I've said this a lot of times. It's like, I don't know what people were expecting him to do. Remember we talked about this, and he took umbrage to the question, but if you'd asked. But like Micheál Donoghue, same thing. I don't know what people were expecting from Galway this year. I didn't think they'd come out of Leinster. So it wasn't one way they did well to come out of Leinster, but they're definitely going to have, they need new bodies, they need fresh legs, and they have had a couple of fairly good minor and under 20 teams the last couple of years. So can they get 2-3 players from them teams and just help them develop and hopefully they're ready by the time they're 23, 24, because that's the kind of project I think they're going to need to undertake.
Yeah. Nisha, I don't know if you've seen much of the minor, but the final is on. The final is on this weekend in Semple Stadium. Waterford and Clare, neither of which obviously were provincial champions. Cork beat Waterford in the Munster final. I think Waterford beat Clare by 6 when they played them in the last group game. I was chatting to James Joxer O'Connor earlier on the week, and he was kind of pushing for the minor finals to be back played before senior finals. What's your own thoughts on that? Jamie Wall kind of was over and back with me there, saying that he was surprised that I agreed with him just because the great occasion maybe Offaly had in they were beaten unfortunately, but the great occasion when Tipperary and Offaly met in Nolan Park and it was sold out and that. And there's definitely something to that. I always loved the final on Ireland final day. And Jamie's point to me was that it's not the minor finals job to make a bigger occasion of the senior final, but I like a curtain raise. I think it adds to the occasion. I always love seeing the next future star on the biggest day of the year, because at the end of the day, the cream will always rise on the biggest occasion. Do you know what I mean? If a lad does it on the big occasion, like, there's a fair chance he's going to make it in 5, 6, 7, 8 years and do it on the senior stage or whatever. Whereas now, like, All Ireland final day is kind of like somebody playing on the field or some thing going on in the field, some sort of music or something like that. The Jubilee team are paraded about an hour beforehand in front of an empty stadium. I just think that we have it all wrong. Maybe it's not necessarily that the minor final has to be on before. Maybe something has to be on before. It has to be more of a carnival atmosphere to it. Brian Flannery, that used to play a bit with Waterford and Tipp, came back and said, like, definitely minor games played before Munster Championship and Leinster Championship games. Definitely. I used to love that as well. And I remember even rocking down to Ennis for Waterford and Clare in 18, and there was a minor game on beforehand, and Clare were beating Waterford well, and you're just kind of seeing, you look through the Clare team and you're like, oh, this lad, and you keep an eye out for him for a few years' time or whatever. I don't think players need to be protected, I'll put it to you that way, to not play in Croke Park at 15 or 16 or 17 years of age. If that's the reason why finals aren't been played in Croke Park, I don't think that's a valid enough reason, to be honest with you. I think they learn as much from the experience as any potential drawbacks.
Yeah, and I just think that the All-Ireland final should be a double header. I think as well that any and all minor and under 20 finals should be in Croke Park, because what else is Croke Park for? Like, you could go, I think I mentioned this to you before as well, you could play 2-year minor and you could play 2 or 3 years under 20 representing your county and never play in Croke Park. Whereas the Leinster rugby team get to play in Croke Park whenever they want, it seems. The Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be playing in Croke Park, but then,
Did you get your tickets, actually? Did you get your tickets?
No, I'm not paying for that. No, I'm not. That's way too expensive. Way too. You'd be better off flying to America and making a weekend of it, like, for the price of the tickets in Dublin.
True enough.
Absolutely crazy. Same with the wrestling. But like, has Adam Screeney played a championship match at senior level in Croke Park yet?
Joe McDonough final. That was all.
Joe McDonough final, right? Okay. So great. But, like, one time and all the buzz and all the hype that's been around him. I get Jamie's point about the occasion or having it in the smaller grounds and all, and they're because I've been at so many of them now with TG Carr and stuff. They're magic, right? And even we were doing we did the Kilkenny Waterford semi-final there in Wexford Park, and there was a decent crowd at it. There was a decent crowd at it.
But it works. But it works within that type of setup. It works within a Tullamore, an Nolan Park, a Portlaoise.
Yeah, exactly. But I just think that the minor All Ireland final should be the curtain raiser, or the under 20 final should be the curtain raiser to the senior All Ireland final, because paying €100 or whatever it is for one match is a rip off. It's not right. It's not right, because nobody. And I know a fella actually that was playing on the field there with the Mary Wallopers, whatever, a couple of years ago. He plays in our team. And again, great occasion for them, and it was deadly and all that. But like, no, like at the end of the day, nobody cares. Nobody wants to see the music. It's not the Super Bowl. Nobody cares about the halftime show. The Jubilee team was kind of, and I heard who was it was given out that they were kind of disrespected about when they were put out onto the field, because nobody was even in there. I was in there because I was doing commentary, I think, so I was in there early, and I was going, this is a bit weird, because I always remember that when you were younger, where the people would be cheering and clapping for him, but there was no.
Yeah.
Remember, it was just real silence. It was odd. I think it is upside down. And it has to. I think the All Ireland final has to be a double header. Should go back to being a double header, especially for the price you're paying. If you want to bring, like, if I had two children, I wanted to bring, like, you're talking about €300, like, you know,
Yeah.
it's a rip off for one game. And yeah, teenage boys. Look, I played in Croke Park All Ireland semi final with the minors, and the second half it was deadly, because it started filling up. Like, you hear the echoes in the first half, and then you hear the buzz in the second half. It was brilliant. We loved. Well, I don't know what the rest of the lads, but I presume they did. We loved it. Yeah, the primary school, yeah, the goal games, yeah. This was, somebody said this, yeah, that I had heard the reasoning was to relieve the pressure from the teenagers. But then somebody says, but sure, they play the goal games at half time.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So it's just like, what are you talking about? Like, I think we need to go back to the minors or the 20s final being a curtain raiser. I just think that the senior All Ireland needs a curtain raiser. Because it makes it better. Two hurling matches makes it better. Just a proper festival. Yeah, just.
But just even like, I'm probably one of those players that had like a very chastening experience playing before a senior game. We played Kilkenny in a Leinster minor semi final in 2004, and Kilkenny were after being beaten by Wexford, and were playing the first round of the qualifiers against Dublin in Dr. Cullen. And there would have been a right crowd in, and like, you know, an intimate kind of a provincial venue, and I got absolutely scorched alive, and it stayed with me for a while. But it was a great experience when I look back on it. Like, I don't look back and say, oh, that was terrible. I look back and say, Jesus, how much did I learn from that day? In my own head, I had it built up to be the biggest game like I was ever going to play. And I remember, I don't know if it's ever happened yet, when you're overawed before a game, but it only needs to happen once or twice for it to never happen again. But I remember getting that cold kind of bead of sweat down my back before the game, and I was like, oh no, this is not good. It's like expending energy like long before a ball is even pucked, like terrible.
Yeah.
But when it happens, you're like, okay, I'm gonna be a lot more relaxed about it now, and I'm not going to treat it as a big thing, and then it doesn't happen again, if you get me. But that's how you learn. And like, I remember Brian Mullins, who played in goals at Burr for, he must play from 98 till about 2023, I'd say. He had a bad experience in a Leinster minor final, a wet day, I think it was. He conceded 3 goals. And he always puts it down to, that's the day he learned most about hurling, or how to treat sport and how to prepare or whatever. And that's, I don't know, like, I think that's a good thing. Some lads will soar, other lads won't. Some will take it the wrong way. That's the natural thing in sport. Others will be like, okay, I'm going to learn from this or whatever. And isn't that kind of what it's all about? Like, I don't believe in this thing of, like, I think, as Jock O'Connor said, I think you're protecting them too much, or trying to protect them too much. Like, it's sport, it's competition, it's put them into the, if they want to, and most of them will want to be in the arenas. See, that's the thing as well.
But like, like, what are you protecting them from? Like, you know, it's like, you should, again, and the management and the parents, like, need to get it into their heads as well, and the coaches or whatever, that, like, you know, the whole thing of play the game, not the occasion.
Who are you, Frank? Frank, was that Frank Patcham from Dream Team, Harchester United? Play the game, not the occasion, son.
Jeez, Dream Team.
Remember, like, that was gold. Now that was absolute gold. Fletch and the boys.
That was a great show. What was her name? Linda Block.
Yeah, I remember. We'd be off playing soccer or playing a game in someone's house, and you'd belt back on the bike. You'd be in the house for, I think it was like 6 o'clock, 6:01. It was like, Dream team with brew cream, style and control. And then
Was it 6? Yeah, I always thought it was 8 on a Sunday or something. Yeah,
oh, I have 6 in my head, maybe during the week or something. That was in my
yeah.
head now, but I could be.
Yeah.
I stand to be
But again, it
corrected.
was a great show. The way they clipped it all together and all was real good. And that
Yeah,
fella, was it Naismith or what was his name, ended up playing for Ireland because of the granny rule and all that.
that's right. Yeah, well,
All
like
that
for
drama.
a fictional club like that existed for a couple of years, they managed to have like a plane crash, a shooting, the whole shebang. That it
For the
all
time,
tipped off in a couple of seasons.
the time they had that manager who had to bet on them to get relegated.
Yeah,
And then for some reason they couldn't sack him out of his contract or whatever the hell was. That was bad. But like back to the minors, like it's just that's why the final, like, as in like the final should be in Croke Park. Whatever about like we played like a Leinster final and an All Ireland semi final, and I think they used to maybe do I think they maybe used to do the Leinster semi-finals in Croke Park as well, even. And you're kind of going, right, look, yeah, just make it a bigger deal, like where it's like the All Ireland final, the All Ireland minor final should just be in Croke Park, and I think the under-20 final should probably be somehow in Croke Park where you build a crowd for it. Obviously, if it's a standalone thing, you'll only get the kind of 5 to 10,000 maybe. But like,
I don't think any of them should ever be stand. If they're in Croke Park, they cannot be standalone.
no. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like you join it up some way, either with one of the semi-finals or something like the maybe like the Joe McDonough is with one semi-final and the under-20s with the other semi-final, and that's how you build a crowd for the match for the under-20s. Let's say, depending on leaving sort and all that. But anyway,
Just on it, Nisha, there's a couple of people were on and saying like, if it's on All Ireland final day, how are you going to get tickets for it or whatever? If you had 10,000 people in a standalone fixture, that would mean that 10,000 people want to go to the game per se, whereas 10,000 might be able to get tickets for an All Ireland final. That's kind of the debate. But
sure they used to always do it. Sure they always found a way.
yeah, they did, to be fair. And even listen, I would even be open to like playing a final before a semi-final if that's the case, or
Or
so.
that,
Yeah, you know what I mean. I definitely think there's ways and means around it, but on that All Ireland final day, and it's obviously coming up soon, we definitely. I'm not saying we need to go like all American football on it, but we need to make more of the day that it is, because it's an unbelievable day, and maybe I have the thirst for the minor final been on before, because that's what I was brought up on and that's what I loved. And I think it was a 1:15 throw-in, and it was the Irish commentator on RTE. It was Shahay, Finian Cone. Yeah. Now I love that. That's why it was that. Yeah. Pint to get Richie.
Yeah.
And, like that's what I was brought up on, and that's what I loved. So that's maybe what I yearn for. Maybe others don't, but I definitely think we should be putting them on maybe a bigger stage and exposing them to more. That's my own personal opinion, anyway.
Definitely, 100% they should. Like it just should. Like, and again, like it's we were beaten in semi-finals or whatever, but like like that's what you're playing for. You're representing your county. You're hoping you end up in a double header with your senior team in the All Ireland final. Like that's what we were always hoping for, but it didn't happen. But that's what you wanted. That like the Kilkenny minors, the Kilkenny seniors would be in the All Ireland final, and that you be playing on the minors. Like my father, they won one year, 75, I think, something like that. They won the minor, but then the seniors lost the senior final. So he said like the hotel was a bit weird, like and all. But then, and he was there loads of times then as a selector as well with the minors too. Then in later years, in early 2000s, kind of when Kilkenny were really successful as well, senior and minor. So he was like, God, it was brilliant, like and all. And that's what you're kind of hoping to do. And it was such a huge occasion for the lads who were 17, 18, and even sometimes then you get the odd under 16 lad. But I just think we need to go back to it. The Offaly thing was brilliant, but I don't think any other minor team has actually captured the imagination in that way either, as in packing out stadiums either. So I think it's time. Just the finals definitely at least should be in Croke Park again, either before each semi-final that you do the minor and the 20 final is a double header with each semi-final, something like that. I just think it's high time now it goes back to that the minors are in Croke Park. The minors have to have a final in Croke Park. I just think it's not fair that we are paying and playing members. The father has a minor medal. So does he wear that? Do we wear the breakfast? No, my grandfather does as well. So we were on a roll there. It was like a thing of my father actually said it to me on the run in the week at a semi-final. He goes, you know, now if you win the All Ireland, I think we'll be the first family to have 3 minor All Irelands, as in generation to generation.
Oh, wow.
Nobody else has had it. And I said, Jesus, no way. And he goes, yeah. So, sure, let's see. And I was like, okay, thanks. You know,
maybe say it to me after.
And Pa Dillon, I remember I was working on Pa Dillon's farm at the time as well. And I don't know what we were eating lunch or something. I don't know what he had. He had a Kinder egg or something, or one of the young lads had a Kinder egg or something like this. Is when now James Maher was real young, and the 2 younger brothers were real young. And he did a Kinder egg or something like that, and he cracked open the egg anyway, and there was a toy inside it, and there was a little cat. And he held out his hand and he goes, "Look at that." He goes, "A cat." He goes, "That's a good omen for Sunday." But then we lost. He's like, "Fuck you." But anyway, yeah. But yeah, like it just, yeah. Oh, sorry, this is the point I was trying to make. As paying and playing members, the dream, the goal is to represent your county, and then to get to an All-Ireland final and represent your county and your club and your family in Croke Park, no matter what level it is, right? And just the fact that, look, I said this to you in a text as well, and I said it to a couple of people as well, like that the Leinster rugby team has played in Croke Park, I don't know how many times this year. The Pittsburgh Steelers are going to get to play in Croke Park this year. Yet, like, lads representing their county at minor and under 20 level won't get a chance. And there's a high percentage chance that they'll never represent their county again. So they could have an All-Ireland minor medal, an All-Ireland 20 medal, and never represent their county again, and never have stepped foot in Croke Park, but they have 2 All-Ireland medals. You know, it's just that it doesn't make sense as far as what the association is supposed to be, what, you know, clubs, you know, development, the family ethos, the whole volunteer ethos, all that kind of stuff, what it's supposed to be. We are continuously drifting away from it. And this is one major aspect that I think that we are drifting away from, that I think is wrong. I know the kind of rationale behind it, but it's not. It doesn't hold up. It doesn't hold up. Diarmuid Dooling now did say, he goes, "I've never, when Dublin played Offaly in the 20s final last year in Port remember, he said, I have never played in front of a crowd like that before." And that was brilliant. That was unbelievable. And they were flooding the field even before the game. It was like old school. But again, that was a Leinster.
Is that the exception rather than the rule, though?
Yeah. But again, that was a Leinster final. The All-Ireland final should be in Croke Park.
Okay. I think we've both given our opinions on that. Yeah. Some will agree, some will disagree. But Nisha, you won't be on next week, so give me your 2 All-Ireland finalists, senior finalists.
Oh, Kilkenny and Dublin. No, I think Kilkenny, if Owen Cody is fit and they have all 6 forwards, I think Kilkenny will beat Tipp. I just think it'll be a far more physical game than that Galway one will be anyway, put it that way. So I think Kilkenny with a full strength squad should be beating Tipperary. In the long run, Tipp will probably maybe be more successful, but for this year, I think full strength Kilkenny should be and will be beating Tipperary.
Who are they meeting in the final?
If Dublin can hold out Cork in the first half an hour and not concede goals, Dublin. But athletically, if Cork get a good start, it'll be Cork. But
Cork.
Kilkenny, Cork, yeah. Kilkenny and Cork.
When push comes to shove.
Yeah.
Nisha, thanks very much for your time again. Big thanks to our sponsors, Lotto Land. We'll be back again next Thursday, where we'll have a bumper preview of the 2 All-Ireland senior semi-finals. As Nisha says, the best weekend of the hurling year. Definitely one of them anyway. Nisha, thanks a million, and we'll chat to you all soon.
Good luck.